All right, let's talk about this silly, silly ass movie, Leprechaun 3. Viva la Leprechaun. Leprechaun in Vegas, then Leprechaun in space, then Leprechaun in the hood, and then let's take him back to the hood. Oh man. The things they have to do to get people to rent these videos back in the day. They just gotta get another gimmick. Where can we take him this time? One thing I was noticing in this one was, for a series like this, it should be more gory than it is. And even though this is the goriest of the three, it is very tame as far as that goes. And I feel like films like this really need on-screen violence, gore, fun, lots of nudity and just things that people who would rent these kinds of films go for. They go for laughs. They go for, funny kills and hot chicks with their tops off and whatnot. So I have some stuffy ass nose going on. I think everyone thinks I'm on cocaine, but I wouldn't blame them. But yeah, I don't fucking know what's going on. But yet again, 3 films in a row now, they have changed and altered the mythos behind the Leprechaun. This time his weakness is a medallion that he, it has on him in the beginning, and he's turned to stone, and then they take it off and he comes back, and then like if it touches him it can hurt him, and then his gold then is his weakness. Where they like set it on fire, but then it just disappears for some reason instead of like melts. I'm guessing maybe they just didn't have the budget to melt it, so they just made it disappear, and then he burns up and dies. And it's like 3 films in a row, you have completely different rules. It's weird, and I have no doubt Leprechaun in Space will change it again, which is fine. I guess it keeps it fresh, but I don't know any other series where this happens like this, where they have the same actor coming back to portray the same character, but all the rules from previous films are just ignored and reinvented. It's very odd. Now, there is so much fucking silly shit in this movie. There should be. But I guess clearly you're not supposed to take this film seriously, but you're not supposed to take anything seriously, like the characters, anything, even though it's kind of played straightforward as far as like the characters. You're supposed to feel for them, like when they're in danger and the decisions that they make and this and that, but it's like it lives in this very unrealistic world where people just ignore things that are odd and out of the norm on a regular basis throughout this film. Like the Leprechaun in this film does so many things that people would be like, what the fuck is going on? And either be running out of the place or asking him or whatever. Like, it's films like this are fun to watch because reality has just been tampered with. It's not like it's just full on Naked Gun slapstick where every character is over the top ridiculous. Like, it plays in this middle ground area where like reality has been distorted to fit the silliness, but it's still trying to be semi-serious throughout. And it's an odd blend, and it's fun to watch. So let's talk about a lot of the ridiculous things that are going on in this movie. The pawn shop guy has a computer program that just so happens to have Leprechaun information on it, and he just typed out the word Leprechaun on it, and then it just throws up this animated video that plays seemingly for like hours. I mean, it just keeps going, and every time like other people come to the pawn shop, it's still running and still, giving off the rules of the Leprechaun and the myth and the whatever. and it always seems to be cued into the right places when they walk in. Maybe it's just on a loop and we just happen to hear those moments, but I love that. But just the fact that he has a like CD-ROM or whatever the hell he puts in the computer, probably more like a floppy disk at this age. He just types, it's like myths and legends, and he just types in Leprechaun and it just pops up this video. Oh my God, it's so fucking stupid. I love it. And then the Leprechaun has a huge pot of gold. It's like this fucking big and this thick, and the coins are overfilling the thing. But then when he goes to count them, he gets to 99 yet again, and he is missing his 100th coin. But it's like that entire pot filled to the brim, overfilling with these coins, is only 99. I'm sorry. That thing has 500 to 1,000 coins in it. Get the fuck out of here. I must just have like just a top or layer right over the top. It was just like, it's just piled on the top, and then the cauldron or the pot is like, stuffed. And then this is another thing that's very odd in this movie when it comes to the Leprechaun, is that not only are the rules of like his weaknesses altered, but his powers are now altered as well. Like, he doesn't have the ability to teleport in this movie at all. Like, he has to walk back upstairs. He hitches a ride to the hospital. Like, there's so many times where he could have used his teleportation stuff. He sneaks into the hospital dressed as a doctor for like half a second. And he has like a sanitary cap over his hat, which I just thought was a hilarious touch. I just love that. I was talking about this in the last video where he puts the shamrock and the stuff on the side of the car, like the mentality behind that. Like, fuck the fact that he is a leprechaun walking through the hospital, but he's like, oh, I'll just throw on a doctor's outfit and, it'll all be good. And I better make sure that it's sanitary. I just love the mindset of the leprechaun in this, that he puts that little extra thought towards the stuff. And then there's it's just like that throughout this film. Like, he sits up on a craps table and is playing craps in a Vegas casino, and no one cares. I love it. I love how stupid it is. The pawn shop guy, before he goes to shoot the leprechaun, for some reason just licks the barrel of the gun. Yeah. That is some good ad-libbing there. I doubt that was in the script. The coolest cameo in this movie, and it's not even really a cameo, she plays a pretty damn big part. So when I saw her, I was kind of like, oh, this is cute, stretch. Carolyn Williams is in this, but she ends up playing a pretty substantial role. I mean, she's got to be in this thing for like 20, 30 minutes of the film, and is basically like a main character. So it was really cool to see her in this movie. We had Clint Howard in the last one. We have Stretch from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in this one. So that was cool. And her death is the best part of this movie to me, and definitely the most memorable scene in this film. She wishes to be young and hot again. She comes out with his rockin' bod, a new haircut, and then the leprechaun comes to take it back and swells up her tits and her face and her butt so huge. Big Trouble in Little China style. I made that reference in another one of these Leprechaun reviews. But this time for real, like, her body just keeps swelling, but only in her tits, her lips, and her ass until she explodes. Hilarious. And that explosion actually looked really cool. Oh man. Leprechaun meets Elvis, and they do a thank you very much together. And then they dance together. Oh God, it's so good. So fucking funny. We find out that the leprechaun's shit, yes, his poop in this movie is green. That's what we needed to know, but it is a fact. He shits in the fucking magician's hand. We also find out that a leprechaun bites a person. He becomes a leprechaun as well, like a werewolf. I guess he gave him leprosy? But, we also find out that the leprechaun's blood in this is acidic and burns through people. That, yet again, I mean, that isn't in the first movie or the second movie. Like, they shoot him with the shotgun a bunch, his blood's going everywhere, and no one's burning. Nothing's burning. So, they just fuck it. I love the owner of the casino brings the girl after he's wished for her to be hot for him, and she's dancing for him and whatever, and his bed literally in lights above his bed says the Pleasure Palace. My God, if I had the balls to put something like that above my bed, I'd have to have really big balls for that. His character just reminds me of how stupid men are. Like, how ridiculously horny and dumb men can be. Like, the fact that he doesn't question anything at all. Like, a woman crawls out of his television and just starts making out with him, and he literally he actually makes that attempt of like how is this happening? And then he's just like literally just takes it. He's just like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm too horny to fucking care. And it's like, as ridiculous as that seems, I don't think it's far off. Like, men are that pathetic, and it's just kind of making me laugh while I was watching that scene. Like, I really think that a woman would crawl out of the TV naked like that and be on him, and he'd just be like, I might as well, maybe I'm just dreaming, fuck it, I'm gonna go with it. A woman would run out of the room. Maybe not all of them, but more than likely almost all of them. And then yet another thing that I'm talking about where it's just like those added little stupid things, like the girl who crawls out of the television, instead of her just like not actually being there or whatever, like in the last movie, it was a lawnmower. The guy went and has got his face in there, blew him up. This time, for some reason, it turns into a robot. I don't know why it needed to do that, but it did, except for it has like a completely robotic looking body, metal parts and whatnot, except for it keeps the big fake tits that the girl had that came out of the TV. Hilarious. So glad they put tits on that fucking thing. Made me laugh out loud. And then while he's making out with this, TV robot chick with the tits, the leprechaun is in the background doing all these like commercials, and he's like a lawyer, and he's like, those are fun little touches as well. Those were making me laugh. Man, he is like almost every line of dialogue in this movie. Now, in previous movies, like the first two, he does it a little bit, but in this movie, it is in abundance. Almost every line that the leprechaun says is a rhyme. They kind of give a little bit of a nod to the first one with his affinity for shoes, and he's like, ooh, good leather. And I thought he was going to clean them again, like that weakness is gone as well. But it was like, oh, like, is he going to? No, because I think that's a really funny one. I wish they would have kept it. A bodyguard like of this mob dude comes with him to the slot or to the craps table to bully the leprechaun off the table for whatever reason, because he wants to throw that, he wants to play craps, I guess. And the leprechaun turns the guy into a slot machine, and just shit keeps coming out of him. And this is a very distinct looking leprechaun. And then later in the movie, like 20 minutes later, 15 minutes later, he sees the leprechaun in the room that they're going into to, hustle the owner of the casino. And it literally takes the guy like 30 seconds to recognize the leprechaun. He's like, wait a minute, I remember you. It took you that long to remember the leprechaun that turned you into a slot machine not 10 minutes ago? Jesus Christ. And then he disposes of him, and then he's like attacking the mob boss guy, and the mob boss guy is like casually throwing Munchkin jokes, like Wizard of Oz jokes at this guy, like what was Judy Garland like and stuff. Like, it's not like he's trying to antagonize him because he's trying to be a dick in his last words or anything, where he's like, fuck you, leprechaun, like nothing like that. He's just like literally casually talking to him as the leprechaun's like beating him to death. Yeah. This movie is so bad that the main actress of this movie actually quit acting after this movie. That's poor girl. But the main kid in this movie, on the other hand, he may not have acted a whole ton. He did some, but he actually ended up becoming a pretty big screenplay writer. He has a bunch of big name things to his credit, like Real Steel with Hugh Jackman, Flight with Denzel Washington, Kong Skull Island, the new Power Rangers movie, Coach Carter, like a whole ton of these movies this kid wrote. It was really interesting when I looked him up. I was like, oh my God. I also had to, have a good laugh with the doctors in this movie when the main kid comes in and he has his leprechaun leprosy thing going on, and they put him on the table and they're trying to save his life. They're like, this is really important. This is life or death. Do you have health insurance? Now, I can tell you from personal experience, that ain't far off, because I got in a horrible car wreck when I was 18 years old. I almost died. They came in the hospital, or they came in my room in the hospital, and they were like, you're going to need like a month of rehabilitation. I was in the ICU. I was fucked up. I was this, I was that. And I'm not fucking with you, man. They told me like everything that I needed, this and that. And then they came in to get my insurance information, and they didn't have any. And within 5 days, they wheeled me out of the front fucking door of that hospital, and they left me on the curb, and they said goodbye. No shit. That's a long story, but that's the meat of it for this, at least for this story anyway. So I saw that, I was laughing, because it's just like, no, this is no shit. And then they find like a ton of money, like cash in his jacket or wherever. And they're like counting it all. And they're like, oh, maybe he needs more tests and he can afford an MRI and a couple of these. And we'll start from A and work our way down through all the tests. And I'll skip golfing or whatever, tennis or something. That was actually making me laugh, because it ain't far off. And I mean, the guy gets away. They defeat the leprechaun, and the girl that he's been after the whole movie, like, he just makes I don't know what movie that is. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with old movies like Casablanca or something. No, I don't think that's what it is. The start of a beautiful friendship. That's not Casablanca. I don't know what movie that is. Fuck it. Tell me in the comments. I guess I could look that up after this, but I'm too lazy. But yeah, no kiss. Like, no chemistry. They didn't even attempt that. This kid was so goofy throughout the movie. Yeah, it was interesting to see that the guy gets the girl, but we don't even get to see like a kiss or any romance towards them. There was like no connection at all that I saw. So I think they just kind of decided like, let's just skip it. So anyway, this was fun. I mean, it wasn't an absolute blast or anything, but all these things that I pointed out, it's fun. I mean, there's so many things I could also mention. I had so many other things that I was like writing down, and like, like his gold pieces are so much different than the gold pieces in the last movie, and this and that. I could go on for like an hour of how many fucking things there are to talk about in this movie. But I'll cut it off here. I gotta get to Leprechaun in Space. Oh, Jesus Christ. What am I doing with my life?